Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. I am here at Levi Stadium where today the 49ers had day 2 of training camp for the 2023 season. That is right, we are here in Santa Clara, the 49ers. It was Brock Purdy day. All eyes were on Brock Purdy as he made his return to the field for the first time since the NFC Championship game on January 29th. We finally were able to watch Brock Purdy throw a pass. It was the first time that anybody in the media, any fans, have actually seen Purdy throw a pass. During his offseason when he was recuperating and going through his throwing progression to get ready for this day, his group did a really good job of keeping all that video, all those pictures away from the media, away from social media, something that's really tough for people to do nowadays, it seems like. But Brock Purdy and his crew was able to get that done. We got to see him on the field real quick. Want to make a shout out to one of the members of the Toolbox over here, Lucas Pesci, who says, "Hey, Jack." Hey, Lucas, good to have you on board. Lucas, a member of the Toolbox. You can join the channel, become a member. It's pretty cheap. If you want to do that, please do become a member. If you have that membership, that little dollar sign next to your name, you get bumped up in terms of making sure that your comments get read, even though I do the best that I can to get to as many as possible. And E. Kim, hey, Jack, good to see you in here as well. We got Ken Martin who says, "Purdy, it's back. Let's go." And so let's get into it. Let's talk about Brock Purdy's day today. It wasn't, I think it was an interesting one because Brock Purdy, he was a leader in the clubhouse, right? The starting quarterback. That's what Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch have both said. Today, let's get into the first things first. Let's not get into the performance. Let's talk about how the arm looked itself. And I would say this: Purdy's arm didn't look any different today than it looked last year. He was able. It was a progression throughout the day. The throws in the beginning of the day were a little bit more on the light side, right? And then as practice wore on, he started getting a little bit further down the field. The throws started to come out a little bit hotter. And then there was a couple of shots where he took deep shots down the field. He had a one nice play where he ripped a curl into Brandon Ayuk against tight coverage. So all in all, from an arm perspective, I think the biggest news for today is Brock Purdy's arm looked healthy. After practice, he said that, there was none of the, in terms of the soreness and those kind of things, there was nothing that outside of the norm for a day of practice and what your arm would feel like from there. So that's a good thing. And like I said, there was a couple times he uncorked a couple of deep ones. One to Jawan Jennings down the right sideline, another one to Deebo Samuel. And the throw to Deebo Samuel, from where he threw the ball to where it landed, that thing went over 50 yards. And if you've watched Brock Purdy enough and you watched him here with the 49ers last year, that's not a ball that we saw him throw. We never saw him get the ball that far down the field. So there was a little bit of wind behind him. So you got to give him the credit for that. There was a little bit of help from Mother Nature to get that ball that far. But again, your first day back after having UCL, internal brace procedure surgery, to be able to get the ball down the field like that is a positive for Brock Purdy. And the other thing in terms of his performance, it was rusty, right? In terms of what we saw in terms of the completion percentage and those kind of things, there was definitely some rust. If you look at his overall numbers for the day, Purdy was 8 of 17. But the bad part about that was he was just 3 of 10 during team action. So he did really well. He was against in the 7-on-7 period when there wasn't pressure. When he did have pressure around him, he struggled a little bit at the beginning. But like his arm, like how, like I mentioned, his arm seemed to get stronger as the day went along. I felt like Brock Purdy's performance got better as the day went along. If you go back and you kind of look through it, his first play of the day was a little play action. He's rolling out to his right. He has Ross Dwelley in the flat. He throws a little high. Dwelley has to reach up, hits his hands. He's not able to bring it in. You got to put that one on Purdy because it wasn't right on the money. It's an easy throw that should be right there. The next one was an interception, and that was a bad one. Purdy dropped back. It was play action. He turned, looked to his left, and his first read wasn't there. Pressure started getting on him, and you could see kind of some happy feet. You can see him kind of lean back and throw the ball, and he threw it right into the arms of Tayshaun Gibson for an interception. Like I said, that was the first pick of training camp, and that was a really bad one. But what I found interesting about it was, here's Brock Purdy, who hasn't been on the field in 11-on-11 action since the NFC Championship game, and they don't ease him into it at all. They put him right out there, and he is throwing. He is throwing with full-on pass rush rule and everything around him. Made a bad read there, but he got better as the day went along. Following the interception, the team then went into 7-on-7 period was the next time that he hit the field. He was 5 of 7 during that, and that's where you started to see him letting go in terms of the balls down the field. He threw a really nice curl route to Brandon Ayuk. There was tight coverage there from Charvarius Ward, and he had to put something on that one, and he really zipped that one in there to him a little high, but Ayuk was able to get up and catch it for a nice completion down the field. Then you get to the second team session. The numbers don't really show it, but I felt like Purdy's performance there, he was better. He opened the session with a really nice tight window throw over the middle to Brandon Ayuk, and that's one that's very similar, if you've watched the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, right, where it's that play action, the throw going over the middle right between the linebackers, and that's what this one was, right? It's just that quick play action, pop up and throw the quick in route, and he was able to fit that right in there. It was a tight window, like I said, between Fred Warner and Dren Greenlaw, so a really nice ball there. And then the next throw from Purdy was even a better one in that it was a downfield throw on an in cut to Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk was open behind the linebacker, and so the quarterback's got to get that up and over. It's a little high, but a ball that Ayuk should be able to catch. He got up for it, got both hands on the ball, wasn't able to bring it in, and he was frustrated with himself for not catching that one. And then also, like I mentioned, there was a couple of deep balls. There was one of the longer throws of the day. He threw one to Juwan Jennings, like I said, and then he came back to, I believe it was the last throw of the day for Purdy, hit his back foot and launched one about 50 yards down the field, overthrowing Deebo Samuel. So talked about it after, and he mentioned on that deep throw that, he just hasn't had a lot of work with Deebo Samuel, with Juwan Jennings, with Brandon Ayuk so far. He hasn't worked with them at all until today. So you start to get those reps in, and those deep routes are usually timing balls. So hopefully as this goes through, we'll see him progress. Again, it wasn't a good day overall. Like I said, 8 of 17, only 3 of 10 in the team session. So from a numbers perspective, not a good day, but it was a positive day in terms of the arm, and he looks to be in really good shape. He looks to be like he's Brock Purdy, like what we saw last year. Like I said, now it's a matter of Purdy has to go out and he needs to be able to play better. That's it, right? He's got to play better. If today was a game, it's a bad game, and we'd be getting on him about a bad game. But fortunately, it's not. And like I said last year throughout preseason, when it was Trey Lance was the quarterback number one, and he was struggling a little bit. If you follow the channel enough and you were watching these shows back last year in July, throughout the month of August, especially the early part of August, I kept saying, relax. It's early. Same thing. I'm going to say the same thing today. When it comes to Brock Purdy, relax on the numbers. Not a good day in terms of the numbers. A positive day in terms of the arm and the build-up there. And it's July, what's the date? The 27th? Yeah, today's July 27th, and they don't have a game until August 10th, or September 10th. So we're a long ways away. They still have 2 weeks before they even get to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders for their open training camp practices with the Raiders. So there's a long ways to go with this thing. I'm not worried about it all right now with Brock Purdy. I would say that one of my main concerns was Purdy's ability to come back and not only have the physical aspect with his arm. He looked like that's there, but it was also to have that mental state that he was in last year, where you have the pressure around you have guys flying all around you, but you're still able to make those throws. And so we didn't see that today early on. It got better as we went through, but that's what I'm really looking for now. We know that his arm's going to be there. Now it's a matter of is he going to get back to being Brock Purdy in terms of mentally, with everything flying around him, being able to make all the throws that you need to make in this offense. We saw it a little bit today. A couple times got let down by his receivers, but for the most part, we'll see how we go from there. In terms of there's some folks asking about the other quarterbacks. Let's just get through. Let's go through all of them. We had Trey Lance as well. Purdy got all the starter reps, worked everything with the ones. He had 17 attempts. The other quarterbacks were about half of what he had today. Trey Lance and Sam Darnold splitting reps with the number twos. And, like Purdy, Lance had an up and down day, I felt. Kind of seemed to be a thing, not just with Purdy, but also with Lance. Seemed to kind of be the same case with Sam Darnold. On the first throw of the day today, we talked about the second throw for Purdy almost being an interception. Lance almost had one on his first one. In team drills, first throw of the day, it was play action. He's looking to his left to throw to Juwan Jennings. Linebacker Demetrius Flanagan Fowles nearly got an interception, knocked the ball away. Luckily for Lance, Flanagan Fowles knocked the ball down, because if he hadn't, I think it's an interception by Sam Womack, because Samuel Womack was right there. He saw what was coming, undercut the route of Jennings, and was in really nice position for what could have been an interception. Ball never got to him though, so we don't know there. But still, that was a tough throw for Lance, and not I think one that he'd like to get back. He followed that up though, got into 7-on-7, wasn't too bad there. He was 2 of 3 during the 7-on-7 period. He opened that up. He had a bad throw to Braden Willis, a little high in the right flat. Came back from that though and connected with a couple of rookie, the other Willis on a throw, and then also the other rookie tight end Cam Latu, both kind of check downs. And then you get into the final team session. Lance had 4 attempts there, connected on 2 of those, both short throws in the right flat, one to running back Jordan Mason and one to Danny Gray. When I'm watching Trey Lance right now, I'm not seeing the ball go. I'm not seeing, like today, we just didn't see him push the ball down the field. Didn't see him push the ball down the field yesterday either. Pretty much everything from Trey Lance is like 10 yards and in. The ball's just not going down the field. For a guy who has a big arm, who we would expect to be trying to push the ball down the field, the guy that was coming back today from arm surgery pushed the ball down the field the most. And then you had Lance, who's just working everything underneath. It's all check down after check down after check down, especially after the bad throw there to that opened it up. The nice play by Flanagan Fowles and Samuel Womack. So I'm not sure where we are right now with Trey Lance. I felt it was a good day yesterday. Today, I felt like it was a little bit of a step back. This is very similar to where he was last year. Remember last year, day 1, he had a pretty good day. Day 2 kind of slid back a little bit. That seems to be about where he is. But it was a rough day for Lance in that I was looking back through my notes, and the way that they were going back and forth between the quarterbacks, and this is where it's, you got to be fair to where Lance was. This is how the reps were split up. It went Purdy, Lance, Allen, and then after that first round of quarterbacks, it went Purdy, Darnold, Allen, Purdy, and then finally Lance gets back on the field. And that's just really tough to be able to have to wait that long to get onto the field. And then after that, in the second half, I mentioned the completions to Mason and Danny Gray. A couple of other throws that were incompletions. One of them was a really nice pass breakup by Marcelino McCurry, ball over in the right flat as well. Again, a short ball. This one, the linebacker was able to come up and made a really nice play to knock the ball away. So Trey Lance, again, it's just his reps were so spread out today. I think that has something to do with the inconsistency of his play as well. So we'll see. We don't know. Again, it's day 2. We're not even in the pads yet. So to really get too far down the road with any of these guys, it's a fool's errand. I'll say this: Lance looks better from a mechanical standpoint. He looked really sharp today, throwing to the receivers in the warm-up drills that they run with the receivers, where they're just throwing against there. He looked really good there. So from that aspect, that's good. And then we'll see. Maybe tomorrow he'll get a little bit more rhythm going in terms of when he gets to take his reps and so on and so forth. But we know that Brock Purdy is going to be out there tomorrow taking all the ones. So how does Lance and Darnold and Allen get their reps split up? That's going to be something that we need to keep an eye on, I think, throughout training camp. Let's see what else we got. Phil wants to know, when will we get video practice? I'll try to cut some up tonight. I got a long drive ahead of me after. I'm not sure if I'll get to it tonight, but if it's not tonight, it'll be tomorrow or Saturday. You'll get some up there. One of the rules that they have with us is we're only supposed to be putting up about 90 seconds worth of video a day in terms of practice video. I don't know if others are putting out more. I'm not sure at this point, but I will definitely do a couple of cut-ups so that you can see all of Purdy's throws. I'll do another one with all of Lance's throws. And then if there's people that want to see the throws from Sam Darnold, I can put those out and get a second one there. So we'll see how that all falls apart or it comes together. Sorry about that. So that's where we are right now so far. Like I said, from today, when you look at Trey Lance's numbers overall, he was 4 of 8. So you had Purdy at 8 of 17, Trey Lance, 4 of 8 overall. He was 2 of 5 during team drills. Sam Darnold matched that pretty much. He was 6 of 9 overall, but he was also 2 of 5 during team portion of practice. So the quarterbacks as a whole, not a very good day in team. The 49ers defense really winning the day in that aspect. You know, you look at what Sam Darnold did. The 49ers, the way they did it today, you know, the first couple of days, they've had a little bit of team period, then they go to 7-on-7, and then they get back together for team. Well, that first team session today, the only quarterback to complete a pass during that was actually Sam Darnold. We talked about the missteps, by Brock Purdy. We talked about the incompletion near interception with Trey Lance. Sam Darnold actually completed the one throw that he got during that portion of practice. And it was a nice one. It was a play fake, and he threw a really nice ball in rhythm on time to Deebo Samuel on the left sideline for a completion. It was a strong throw there. He followed that up with a perfect 7-on-7 period. Perfect when I say that, it's because he completed all 4 of his passes there. Completed one to Deebo Samuel, another one to Ty Davis-Price, one to Danny Gray, one to Chris Conley. Darnold pushing the ball down the field a little bit. I wouldn't really say pushing the ball down the field as much as, you know, it's not just all around the line of scrimmage. He was through a couple of curls and those types of things. So not necessarily pushing the ball down the field, but just not in that 5 yards and under range, more like the 10 to 12 yard range on those curls. Then you get into the second team session, and he struggled there, just like all the other quarterbacks seem to today. Didn't complete. He did complete a deep throw to Brandon Ayuk, and this was an interesting play because watching it from the stands or from behind the play, you don't see that Ayuk had to really adjust to the ball to get there and make the reception. It was a deep ball down the left side, kind of in the middle. But what had happened was there was some pressure there. So as Darnold's throwing, he actually gets hit. So he's falling back like this as the ball comes out. So all of his momentum gets stopped, and it's all arm. The ball kind of hangs up in the air in an open space. Brandon Ayuk doing a really, really nice job there, seeing where the ball was, adjusting to it, and getting there for the reception. Brandon Ayuk just had 2 phenomenal days. Warner's really throwing the ball to him quite a bit, and he's making play after play. He had that one drop I talked about, but other than that, he's been better so far through the first 2 days than he was last year, which really bodes well for the team. Darnold today overall 6 of 9, and then like I mentioned, he was only 2 of 5 during the team drills. The one quarterback that was good throughout the day was Brandon Allen. He bounced back. He had a really bad day yesterday. Today, 7 of 8 overall. Mostly though working underneath. He did complete a little curl route to Chris Conley and had an in-breaking route to Juwan Jennings that he hit on. But for the most part, it was a light day as far as going down the field for the former quarterbacks. Again, Brock Purdy with a couple of deep shots, the one somewhat deep ball that he got hit on by Sam Darnold. But that's really it. The other, Trey Lance and Brandon Allen, really working the underneath dink and dunk routes today. Yeah, I agree with you on this one, Jedi. Where you say Allen gave yesterday's L back. Yeah, he did. It was an L yesterday. I thought today it was better. He's competing for a spot on this team somewhere, somehow. That's what he's hoping for. We know of the injury out in Cincinnati. We don't know exactly what's going on right now, how bad it is for Joe Burrow. At least I haven't heard. If you guys can always throw that up in the comment section if you want. So we'll see. And I agree with Bomber here. It is. Come on, people. The quarterback's going to work out organically. Quit being so damn toxic. And I agree with this. I don't know. I know people think that I'm pro one guy versus the other. I don't really care. The good part about my job is that I get the report on the 49ers. So if Brock Purdy has a really good day, I'm going to explain it. If he has a bad day, I'm going to tell you had a bad day. I'll explain it. Just like I did last year with Trey Lance over and over again in the first half of the, during training camp when he was struggling. I would say it was a rough day, but here were some positive things that he did. Here were some things that he did, and I kept telling you guys that it was early. We never really got a chance to see him really get it all together because he got injured in week 2. And then, it was everybody else was playing. So it looks like it was a calf strain possibly for Joe Burrow. And I'm seeing where it looks like he's fine, according to Jamarcus Russell. Thanks for the updates there. Yeah, thank you, Bomber. Hey, I'm opinionated. I think that, I understand. Like, I felt like Brock Purdy played really good last year when he got a chance to play, and I don't. I was having a conversation with somebody today. I'll just throw that out there, this out there. But if you had Tom Brady and Joe Montana coming out of college today, we know that they're two of the best quarterbacks of all time because we saw their careers. But if they were just Joe Montana out of Notre Dame, Tom Brady out of Michigan, there's no way that they go number 1 or 2 in the draft. They probably still go 3 and 6 in terms of rounds, just because of the fact that you look at Joe Montana, he wasn't a big guy. The 49ers players and Joe Montana himself used to make fun about how small his legs were because he had legs, his little bird legs, right? But he was able to make all the throws. Tom Brady, we've seen him try to run, and he runs about as fast as I do. He runs faster than me, trust me. But and those guys just would not be first round draft picks, other than the fact that we know their name now, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun training camp. We're into it. Day 2. We'll be back again tomorrow for day 3 with the quarterbacks, and then we get to go out to Vegas. I think the Vegas practices are going to be huge for all the quarterbacks because it's going against a team that's not your own. It's a little bit more open. It's more like a game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Las Vegas brings us in terms of the quarterbacks. And I think the thing to think about is right now, everything that we're doing, everything that we're seeing on the practice field is building up for that point to start off with. And then from there, it continues to build to week 1. So we'll see how it works out. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But there you go. Brock Purdy, 8 of 17. Trey Lance, 4 of 8. 6 of 9 for Sam Darnold. 7 of 8 today for Brandon Allen. A much better day. I really appreciate the super chat from Ken, member of the Toolbox as well. Says Jack is the best beat writer, always fair and honest. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that, Ken. I try to be fair. I try to be honest. I definitely be honest with you. There's no trying about that one. I always make sure I give you my honest opinion, even if you don't like what I have to say. But so those are the quarterbacks today. Let's get into some of the other guys that stood out. There was a couple of defensive linemen that I want to get to. Everybody knows about the first one, Javon Hargrave, the big free agent acquisition. That was the main guy the 49ers went after in free agency. Spent a bunch of money to bring him in, and he looked really good today. He was able to get off. He's got a super good first step. And then the fact that he's a little bit shorter and he's built like he's just, he's not tall. He's pretty wide, but he's not, for as wide as he is, he's very athletic, very quick. And that leverage makes it really hard for offensive linemen to get their hands on him. It's because, think about it, as a defensive lineman, if you have good length in terms of your arms, which are a little bit shorter, it's really hard to find surface area on that guy because he's low. And that leverage can be really tough because he can get up underneath your shoulder pads and really drive you back. And that's what Javon Hargrave did today to Jake Brendel. Got there, he had a play where it would have been a sack on Brock Purdy, I think, in a game situation. Purdy was back in the pocket looking for somebody to come open, and Hargrave was there for the sack, kind of bumped into him a little bit, and then the quarterback stepped to the left and completed a pass to Brandon Ayuk. But, Hargrave, you look at him, like I said, he's got a really good first step, and you put him out on the field with Eric Armstead. Those two guys together in the middle of the field, they're going to be real trouble for opponents this season. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning, not around the 49ers. It was actually in regards to a national deal. And what I told him was this 49ers team is loaded. You know how good they are when it comes to their starters. But then you start getting into the backups, and that's where the talent of this team really starts to show. And one of those guys today that really showed, and he showed yesterday too, is when I first saw him, and today we saw him make another really nice play, was Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw struggled through the first 3 seasons of his career. He's now in year 4. The 49ers didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So Javon Kinlaw is playing for his NFL career right now. And he came in here, and he looks like he is in the best shape that we've seen. Last year at this time, Kinlaw, during individual drills, wasn't going through all of the drills. He was kind of going through some. He'd stand off to the side on others. It wasn't always he wasn't always on. But yesterday I noticed him during one of the hoop drills where they're working on their bend. He was just flying through that. Today, you saw him make a couple of really nice plays. One in particular where there's a play away from him, and where I was standing, I was able to get a really good view of him just working down the line, holding up that defensive lineman, getting them off of him, and just being able to chase the ball down the line of scrimmage. And where to, when the running back cut up, if it was a game, it would have been a tackle right at the line of scrimmage. So Javon Kinlaw is looking really good. He's not going to be a starter. You know that. He's going to be a backup unless something happens to Armstead or Hargrave, which you don't want to have happen. But Javon Kinlaw is a backup for this 49ers team. He has all the potential. If he's healthy, he might be able to finally put it together, which would be really good. So that's good stuff there. Lucas Pesci with the super chat, or he's a member of the toolbox, excuse me, says, what's your first impression from Steve Wilkes' defense? Are they blitzing more? Do they play more man-to-man? They're definitely blitzing more. There's definitely more men around the line of scrimmage. There's definitely more pressure from different areas. They're definitely, right now, they're putting in all of their defense, right? So it's phases that they're going through, but they definitely have some pressure packages already installed. So you're going to see an uptick in blitzing from this team in terms of where they're coming from and that kind of stuff. I can't really get into that at this point, but you're going to see it. There's going to be more guys coming, that's for sure. The 49ers, one of the lower blitzing teams in the league. I think we're going to see them move up, and they have the guys to do it. They got the secondary players. Travarius Ward, he's not on my list of guys to talk about today, but over the first 2 days, he's been really good and on top of receivers constantly. The other one, Diameter Lenore, he's been all over the field. He's got tight coverage as well, so that's really good. Blind Tom with the super chat says, I know quarterback stuff is job one today, but did you notice any rookies who were standing out? Rock on Jack. Blind Tom, in terms of the rookies that right now, there hasn't really been a rookie that's really standing out. I mean, Spencer Wage's looked good, as a undrafted free agent out there. Same thing with Kalen LeBourne and Ronald Awat to an extent, doing a good job. There's just not one that's really stepping up at this point. Saw a couple of completions to the rookie tight ends, both Braden Willis and Cam Latu today. So you saw some of those things. Anyway, so as far as the rookies standing out beyond those guys, I can't really say that there's any that have really grabbed my attention to this point. Jair Brown, getting in work. He's rotating through with the different groups and making his presence felt. Jalen Graham had a really nice play today on one with coverage, I believe. Actually, I think he was blitzing on the play. Was able to get into the backfield. So Graham has looked good. D Winters looked good yesterday. Had a nice pass breakup yesterday. Was D Winters. So that's all positive. And then in terms of Bomber T wants to know about Bosa. There's no update. Nobody asked about him today. We know that's going to be a little while. So nothing on Bosa though yet. We know that he's out there. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also, Blind Tom, I really appreciate that greatly. And then, so those are the rookies. I just don't. They just haven't to this point. We just have not seen the rookies really step up. They have the money to pay Robbie. They have the money to pay Bosa. It's just a matter of figuring out how they're going to do that with the salary cap for years to come. Let's stick with the defensive line really quick because there's one guy in the secondary that I wanted to mention. But Drake Jackson, the 49ers, it looks by all accounts, are going to be relying on Jackson to hold down that defensive end spot opposite of Nick Bosa. Everybody focuses on the ability to generate pressure, the pass rush. That's a major part of that position, right? To be able to generate a pass rush along that defensive line. But in addition to that, the ability to hold the edge in the run game is big, especially with the way that the 49ers defense is set up. Jackson did that a few times today, several times actually, where he was able to do a really good job of setting the edge, forcing those running backs to have to cut back inside where the rest of the defense is able to come up and make a stop. And that's one of the areas where if Jackson can do that, I think the pass rushing game is going to be okay. I think he'll be fine in that, in the pass rushing part. But if he can hold up in the run game and set that edge, that kind of leads to everything else that you do. It's one of the reasons that Samson Ebicom was so good. Opposite of Bosa was his ability in the run game to set that edge. So Jackson looking good right there so far through the first couple of days of practice. Dre Greenlaw, George Odom. We know that Fred Warner We know that Dre Greenlaw, they formed I think was probably the best linebacker 1-2 punch in the NFL, right? George Odom, the backup safety, special teams ace. Those two both made their presence known today in the run game. Both guys getting up and being able to make tackles in the backfield against the run. Greenlaw did it today. Odom. Fred Warner had one in which he was in perfect spot, and if it was a game, he would have tackled Christian McCaffrey for a loss in the backfield, but he didn't get his hand on him. He just got there and broke down and let him cut up. So good stuff there from both Dre Greenlaw and George Odom. When it comes to the secondary, you got to talk today. At least I think you need to be talking about Samuel Womack, the second-year cornerback. 5th-round pick last year, started week 1 out in Chicago in the slot. But he's come along this offseason, and he was in tight coverage throughout practice. I mentioned that first play of the game of the day from Trey Lance, where he undercut the route and what could have possibly come up with an interception. That was a really nice one. But besides that, every time they threw the ball in his direction, he was just blanketed on the guy. So that's really good, and that just shows the depth that the 49ers have. They feel really good about Isaiah Oliver in the slot. They feel really good about Diamador Lenore and Travaris Ward, obviously, and then what they've got in the secondary. But Samuel Womack today really looking solid on the back end of this defense. Tight coverage throughout. You guys were asking me, somebody asked me a little bit ago about pressure, and if you're going to bring pressure, like what Steve Wilkes wants to do, you're going to have to ask those guys on the back end to be able to man up. And Samuel Womack has showed that ability today as a backup player to be able to come out and put tight pressure on there. So good stuff there. Got another super chat from I'm not sure how to say it, Mao Mui. Thank you very much for the super chats. As you know, Kyle has never officially called Purdy the starter. Leader in the clubhouse is markedly different, and Debo's remarks yesterday are interesting. Well, I hear you, and you're right. Kyle Shanahan has not come out and definitively told you or told us that Brock Purdy will be the starter week 1. That question was asked actually to Brock Purdy today, and even Brock Purdy said, no, I haven't been told that I'm going to be the starter week 1. If you listen to everything that Kyle Shanahan has said this offseason, though, and you watch the way that what's happening on the field in terms of who's going on the field and who's playing with the starters, who's not, all those kind of things, Brock Purdy's the starter. And as somebody pointed out to me on social media this morning, Brock Purdy is the start. He's in position to be the starter unless he has a bad training camp, which is my response was no kidding. That's the same for any player at any position on this team. Brock Purdy is a leader of the clubhouse. If he is not healthy, if he is not playing well, he opens himself up to be passed up by Trey Lance or Sam Darnold or Brandon Allen or one of those 3 quarterbacks, whatever, right? We know that. That being said, with what we saw today and what we've seen through the first 2 days, if things don't change, Brock Purdy is going to be the starter week 1. I liken it very much to 2021. Remember, throughout the 2021 training camp, every day Kyle Shanahan was asked about who the starting quarterback was, especially as we got into training camp preseason and got closer to day 1. And even then, Kyle Shanahan said, I don't need to tell you who my starter is. I don't have to share that with you. There's no reason for me to do that. It doesn't do me any good to let you know who my starting quarterback is. So I wouldn't expect us to hear anything about that officially until probably after camp is done and they get into week 1 and probably even the Thursday or Friday before the first game. It's just not going to happen. And again, part of that is because it's the early stages of training camp. Brock Purdy is coming off of an elbow injury that required surgery. There's no reason for him to name a starter, but all you have to do is look at the fact that today Brock Purdy threw the ball 17 times. That is I think that's the same as what Trey Lance has thrown so far in training camp. I think it's the same so much as what Sam Darnold has, and I think we'll see it again tomorrow. So there you have it. We're not going to know right away. And you're right, absolutely agree with you. I think he'll be the starter. However, if Trey Lance gets this thing together, if Sam Darnold gets it together, or one of these guys really gets it together and really takes off, then we might see a different quarterback. But for now, the leader in the clubhouse is Brock Purdy, and I agree with you. We don't know for sure. One last thing about today, and this is one of the negative things, I guess. Don't get into the negative stuff too much, but well, hold on. First off, got to get to one more positive. This is for my guy Gav out in Wales. I don't know if he's watching today. I haven't seen him in the chat. But if you watch the channel enough and you see Gav's name pop up, he has always wanted to know about juice. He's a big Kyle Juszczyk head, our guy out there in Wales. He wants to know if there's anything going on. Yesterday, there was no Kyle Juszczyk news for me to share, but I wanted to make sure that I got this out there today. Kyle Juszczyk, a couple of catches. They threw the ball at him twice, caught both of them, and those were from Brock Purdy during 7-on-7. So Gav, if you're watching this, if you're not here right now, but you're watching it later, whatever, Kyle Juszczyk came up with a couple of catches for you. Elijah Mitchell looked really good today as well. He looked explosive. Yesterday, I talked about how I was a little frustrated with how he kept running into the back of his offensive lineman over and over again. Today, did a much better job of finding the holes, hitting it, getting it upfield really quickly. So good day for Elijah Mitchell. Kalen LeBourne, very similar to that, doing a really good job of working his way upfield. Even Christian McCaffrey had a couple of plays early on where the hole was there and he was just really explosive getting up into it. So the 49ers, again, I talked about it a few minutes ago, but the depth on this team is amazing. That running back room is really good. One downfall that I'll say today, Charlie Warner, tight end drafted a couple of years ago. Last year, they only threw the ball to him twice. Both of them deep shots. Both of them hit him in the hands and dropped them both. That happened again today. Brock Purdy throwing a pass to the left side to Charlie Warner, hit him in the hands, and the ball hit the ground. So Charlie Warner, it's going to be interesting to see if he makes his team, because if Charlie Warner makes his team, it's going to be just as a guy who's mostly going to be blocking, because they only threw the ball to him, like I said, 2 times all last season. And I think that's kind of why they went out and got 2 tight ends, why they got Cameron Latu and Braden Willis, because they need tight ends that can catch the ball. Right now, they struggle with that for sure. So that's what we've got. And then I don't know if I would say that Latu was a whiff at this point. He's okay. He makes some nice plays, and he's got a ways to go. But going to wrap this up right now, though. As I said, good first day back for Brock Purdy, not in terms of the performance, but the positivity in terms of where he is with his arm and the strength in his arm, his ability to get a couple of balls deep. Overall, 8 of 17, just 3 of 10, though, during team drills, for those of you that missed that part earlier. Trey Lance, 4 of 8 today. He was just 2 of 5 during team drills. Sam Darnold, 6 of 9, 2 of 5 also for him and during team drills. And then you get to Brandon Allen, who was near perfect today, 7 of 8. Really good throughout practice. Doing a good job today after having a rough start to it. So, you go through this whole process. It's a process. I think that's the other thing that we kind of sometimes forget about. We're in day 2. It is July 27th. Game 1 isn't until September 10th. We are still, the 10th of August is when this team will be out in Las Vegas to take on the Raiders for those joint practices. So we still got a long ways to go. I forgot to mention this earlier, but if you guys could please hit that like button for me before you leave. And then once you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. And once you subscribe, also make sure you turn your notifications, because throughout training camp, I'm going to be giving you these updates. My schedule on this is going to be as soon as practice gets done, I get in, we do the press conferences, then I do my write-up for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat for 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Then I set up the live stream, come out here and chat with you. So make sure you have your notifications on YouTube turned on, so that when we go live, it lets you know, so that if you want to catch it live and have a question that you want to get answered, you can do that. Also, think about becoming a member of the channel if you can. All those great things. I appreciate all the support. We have over 165 people in here right now. You guys are fantastic. I'm going to hit the road. I got a long ways to go to get home, but I'll be back tomorrow. So keep it locked in right here inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be talking with you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you all so much. I can figure out how to turn this thing off, we'd be good. There we go.